Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday morning. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first, we just hit 4,300 subscribers to the channel. I want to give a shout out to all the subscribers. And special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially new elite channel members, Big Daddy K and Aaron Nagel. They joined Brandon Mikel, Hasher, Salacious Crumb, Ryguy, Brendan Nelson's Haircut, VGK Tigers, ItsHoof, TlVlO, Austin Roberts, Scott Todd, PH Glass, Arfman, 12th Man, Castillo Feria, Samoan, JoJo, and Rep the 206. All right, so today we will be taking a look at one of the recent Seahawks trade rumors. No, not the big one, not the Julio Jones one. We are still monitoring that situation and we'll see what comes of it. But I'm talking about the other big one that some people are buzzing about, and that is Seahawks trading for Stephon Gilmore from the New England Patriots. Now, why this rumor has started is pretty obvious. The Patriots look like they're trying to move Stephon Gilmore, and the Seahawks do have a little bit of a dearth of talent at cornerback. They do have some question marks there. And put two and two together, and you have yourself a trade rumor, even if the two teams haven't discussed it. And we don't know if they have or not, but it makes sense in theory. Now, first, before I get into this video, I want to say if you traded for Stephon Gilmore, he would probably be your number one cornerback immediately. He's clearly better and more proven than guys like Ahkello Witherspoon, DJ Reed, and certainly Trey Brown, the rookie, who I actually think could have a little bit of a learning curve in the NFL. So, offhand, if the price was right, there is certainly a Stephon Gilmore trade that I would be okay with. I'm not completely dismissing the possibility of trading for him. I don't know what the asking price is going to be. I don't know what the Seahawks would be willing to offer for it. And when it comes down to it, in a season like this, when you're trying to win the Super Bowl, acquiring more talent by any means necessary is usually a good idea. So I don't hate the idea from the start, but I'm going to come out and say right now that unless it's a very favorable trade, I'm not super into this one. And let's talk a little bit about why. Okay, so Stephon Gilmore has obviously had a very good career since he got drafted by Buffalo and then went to New England. He's made 2 All-Pro teams in the last 3 years. 2020, he still made the Pro Bowl, although at that point it was name recognition as much as anything else. He won Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. He had 6 interceptions, one of the league leaders in 2019, including 2 touchdowns, 20 pass deflections. He had 20 pass deflections 2 years in a row, which is just bonkers. Nothing bad to say about that. And his coverage numbers in 2018 and 2019 are pretty sterling. He allowed less than 50% completion percentage over those 2 seasons. Less than 50%. He was targeted about 196 times, exactly 196 actually, and he allowed less than half of those targets to go completed. Gave up 5 touchdowns in 2018, but 0 touchdowns in 2019 on 101 targets. However, if you take a look at 2020, which is the most recent year we have to go on, it might be signs of decline. It's a little hard to tell. He's kind of in the Julio Jones category of, is he just slowing down, or is he getting old, or was it just an off year because he got hurt, or did he get hurt because he's old? It's kind of hard to know, but the thing is, when Julio was on the field last year in 2020, he produced. If he had played all 16 games, he would have been a Pro Bowler for sure. He would have put up those Pro Bowl numbers. I don't know if you can say the same for Gilmore. He played in 11 games, so he missed 5. He had 1 interception, 3 pass deflections, which for him is just nothing. Pathetic compared to what he'd been doing the previous 2 years. And his coverage numbers, well, he actually didn't get targeted as much as he had in previous years, probably mostly because New England was a worse team, so opposing offenses got to run the ball more. But when he was targeted, he gave up completions at a higher clip. He gave up a little bit more yards per target. His QB rating allowed was a lot higher. So there are just some signs here that indicate that he's slowing down a little bit at least. And PFF agrees. They gave him a grade of 61 for 2020. If you take a look at 2019, almost 83, you can see that there was a big slip there. And there could be a lot of reasons why, but it's at least within the realm of possibility that Stephon Gilmore is past his prime and headed towards relative irrelevancy. And more than that, even let's say Gilmore is still really good, because I'll admit 2020 could have been a little bit of an aberration. He got hurt. He was probably playing hurt in a couple of those games. Probably wasn't 100%. Still didn't play bad. Those coverage numbers that I showed you a minute ago are not bad at all. But when you're making up a team, even a team that is going all out to win now, you can't just stack every single position with expensive, high drafted talent. You do have to pick and choose your spots. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If you take a look at the current Seahawks depth chart and you take a look at the positions, you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. The Seahawks have a massive investment at quarterback because of all the money we're giving Wilson. We have a massive investment at linebacker. We have Wagner's contract plus a first rounder on Brooks and a second rounder on Darrell Taylor if he ends up playing linebacker. We have a massive investment at safety. Jamal Adams alone is a massive investment, and Quandre Diggs, we traded for him and he's making decent money this year. We have a massive investment at special teams. Myers is one of the highest paid kickers. Dixon is now one of the highest paid punters. So these are areas where we have, relative to the rest of the league, a massive investment. We have a sizable investment at tackle with Dwayne Brown and Brandon Shell. And we have a fairly sizable investment at, I would probably say, guard because of the Gabe Jackson trade and his contract. And, Damian Lewis, he's not making a lot of money, but he was a third-round pick. But we have pretty sizable investments there. We have a modest investment at wide receiver. We have one big receiver contract and 2 second-round picks, along with some, stragglers at the bottom of the roster. Now, when Metcalf gets his money, and if we traded for Julio, then we would have a massive investment at receiver. But as for now, it's just a modest investment. We have a modest investment at the defensive end spot. I would say it's modest-ish. We've actually done a good job of not giving any of our defensive linemen a monster contract, but we have a lot of quality pieces here. I feel like it's a, decent investment. We really have managed to get away with being a little cheaper at positions like running back, center. I mean, Posick, obviously, we cheaped out there. 1 year, $3 million. Running back is pretty damn cheap. We got Carson back at a super nice rate, and then we have some rookie deal and a cheap deal here. And we have also gone pretty cheap at defensive tackle outside of Puna. Honestly, even with Puna, it's pretty cheap. And we have gone pretty cheap at cornerback. Now, I'm not saying there are any rules about how much a team is allowed to spend at certain positions, but you can't spend big at every position. You have to pick your battles. And I feel like because of the situation the Seahawks are in as a franchise with who they have running their team, it makes a lot of sense to have a cornerback be one of the positions that you're cheap at. Because this is what Carroll does. Pete Carroll is still our coach. And there are a lot of things I feel like he can't do that well anymore, but there is one thing that I think he's still pretty good at. It's finding unexpected gems at the cornerback position. He's done it for over 10 years in Seattle now. I mean, you can go to the draft history website and you can take a look at some of the guys he's drafted with later picks and have turned them into good players, like Walter Thurmond. He was a mid-4th round pick. Ended up being really nice for us. The next year, Richard Sherman, I mean, come on, and Byron Maxwell in the same draft. Those were 2 guys who started Super Bowl 48 for us. Okay, Jeremy Lane, 6th round pick. He ended up being a good slot corner until he got hurt. Granted, I'll grant you that, but he still gave us good production before he broke basically every bone in his body. Now, there have also been guys like Brandon Browner, who he didn't even use a draft pick on. I think he was a UDFA, and he actually got a Pro Bowl out of him. You could even throw in a guy like a Shaq Griffin, who was a top 100 pick, but he was able to get 2 great years and 2 decent years out of Shaquille Griffin. So I think that is an accomplishment worthy of some credit. You have, most recently you have guys like DJ Reed. DJ Reed was a guy that the 49ers basically threw away. We picked him up, turned him into a good starting corner for us last year. Ugo Amadi was a guy taken outside the top 100 who has been a quality nickel corner for us for at least the last year, ever since Blair got hurt. The Trey Flowers is another great example, and I know we all hate Trey Flowers right now, but look, the guy was a credible starting corner for 2 years for us, despite not even playing corner in college. So the return on the investment we got on Trey Flowers was actually pretty good. I know we don't like him, and I completely understand why. But the point is, this is kind of what Carroll's good at. He takes low talent, lowly thought of corner prospects and gets something good out of them. And if you take a look at why the secondary looked so bad last year in the first half of the season, it was mostly because of the guys up front, these pass rush guys. And we've done a lot of work to address that. We brought back Dunlap, we've got Mayoa back, Alton Robinson ready to go, brought in Kerry Hyder. Hopefully we have Alden Smith, Rasheem Green, LJ Collier. We brought back Puna Ford, Al Woods, brought back Brian Monet. Daryl Taylor should be ready to go this year. So to me, if you want to see our cornerbacks play better, then number one, you got to give them some time to work with Carroll, which, hey, that's in progress right now. Number two, you just got to get a better pass rush. I feel like we can have a good secondary this year without Stephon Gilmore, so why spend the money and why spend the picks that you would need to acquire him? So I don't know. I'm not really feeling this one, guys. I don't know how much better Stephon Gilmore makes us. He makes us better on paper, but I kind of want to see what we have with with the guys currently at the corner position. I feel like these guys are going to be good as long as the pass rush is as advertised, and I'm optimistic about our pass rush in 2021. So Gilmore, I'm not saying I would say no under any circumstance, but under any realistic circumstance, I am not convinced that Gilmore would make us significantly better. Cornerback is one of the most contextual spots on an NFL team, okay? Cornerback is so heavily dependent on the players around you doing their job or not. Last year, we had Shaq Griffin and Quentin Dunbar, super talented 1-2 punch at corner, and they looked awful for a lot of last year because we couldn't touch opposing quarterbacks. And then later in the year, we lost Dunbar, put out DJ Reed, a guy the 49ers thought nothing of, and he looked great. And a big reason why was because we were actually getting after the quarterback the second half of the year. We actually had a pass rush. And beyond that, the edges for cornerbacks are tiny. It's almost like a sprinter. Like, let's say you got yourself a world-class sprinter like Usain Bolt, and he runs a race against 7 other of the greatest racers in the world, and he wins. He comes in first. And then you run the exact same race, but you give Usain Bolt a hangnail, or, I don't know, a bruise, or something so minor and insignificant that you would barely notice it's there, but suddenly he's finishing 6th because that tiny little edge that he lost because he got a hangnail is enough to make up the differences between 1st and 6th. And as a cornerback, those tiny little edges are the difference between giving up the completion and preventing the completion, making the play on the ball and not making the play on the ball. So if Gilmore was at the top of his game in 2019 when he won Defensive Player of the Year, and then he lost 1/16 of a step last year, that 1/16 of a step made a big difference in his ability to play well. And if he loses another 1/16 of a step in this year, where he'll be turning, I think, 31, then he's going to slip right back down to being just another quality cornerback. And I don't think that's going to be worth what we have to give up. So those are my thoughts on Gilmore. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you do a Stephon Gilmore trade? What would you be willing to give up? Do you kind of see what I'm saying about how contextual the cornerback position is, and how the best thing we can do for our corners is not get better ones, but rush the passer better? I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm going to get out of here. Peace out, Go Hawks. See you guys later today. Still waiting on something big to happen, but all we can do is wait. We're just fans.